in practicing mindfulness is seeing my own assumptions. Maybe I make an assumption about somebody because I heard something about them, but it's not something I have picked up myself in an exchange, but that thing I heard about them is right there, and I've
Mm.
now rigidly categorized them as lazy or uninteresting or biased or whatever. But if I recognize that and I let go of it for now in this interest of discovery, of exploration, like let me actually listen and come to my own conclusions. It's not like you never have a feeling, or a response or a conclusion, but to hold rigidly that which we don't actually know for ourselves
Yeah.
is harmful, so that's the kind of assumption. Or certainly there is the assumption of, born of bias, historically familiar in our families, in our cultures, whatever it is, that we are holding in some way. And if it's so, as you know, of course, better than most, it can be so unconscious, which means it's fast,
Yeah.
and to be able to slow down our reaction, not just blurt something out, um, in order to see like what's cooking inside of me, like what's
Yeah.
motivating me can be very illuminating. And then we have a choice. Maybe we want to let it go for now, or maybe we see like, whoa, that's born of nothing,
Yeah.
uh, or whatever it might be. And of course we all have many experiences of that. So it's the ability to not rush headlong into a reaction that gives us the opportunity to see where we're coming from. And again, it doesn't mean we lose all kind of
Mm.
discernment, or uh, willingness to act in a certain way, but it doesn't have to be so habitual and
Yeah.
so driven in ways that we don't necessarily understand.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Kahneman talks about this, in his book, shifting from system one thinking to system two thinking, right? That habitual thought pattern of reactivity, which is really just a habit, right? Because we've done it this way in the past, we continue to just build that muscle. And, meditation and mindfulness really gives us the opportunity to begin to see how the machine is turning, how contact with this person with, who wears glasses or has dark hair or has a certain gender is triggering these stories in my mind, which is then triggering a reaction. And I have a choice whether I want to follow that reaction. Um, and what I've noticed is oftentimes beneath the reaction, and when it's, habitual and is tainted by a distorted view, is fear or pain,
Hmm.
which is really the way I've been suffering around something that may have happened to me, which is now being projected onto
Hmm.
someone else. And this is where, what you've really offered the world with loving kindness really comes in. So yeah, I'd love for you to actually define what loving kindness is and how you came to this practice and the role of loving kindness in kind of breaking some of these reactivities.
Well, another thing that I've been fascinated by is not only the kind of assumptions we make toward those we have some, kind of bias or prejudice toward, clearly, once we look, but also the ways we can make assumptions about people just from sheer indifference.
Yes.
All the many beings we might
Mm.
encounter in our lives, maybe someone who plays a role in our life. So we see them now and then, like checkout person in the supermarket or somebody like that. And we, in effect, look through them rather than at them,
At them.
and so however we might respond is really born of that kind of objectification
Yes.
and indifference. And so loving kindness practice as a practice is something that uh, is almost like a direct antidote to that, as
Mm.
well as the kind of rigidly holding on to some idea about ourselves or
Yeah.
about somebody else. So, loving kindness practice is a practice, it's a meditative approach that's like a big complement to mindfulness
Yeah.
practice. Just stylistically, they're distinct. So in loving kindness practice, we might silently repeat certain phrases, which are a way of paying attention differently.
Yeah.
So with ourselves, for example, if we're in the habit of maybe at the end of the day evaluating ourselves and pretty much only remembering the mistakes we made and the word we flubbed and the, stupid thing we said at that meeting, so much so that our whole sense of who we are and all that will ever be just collapses around that comment. Comment. Instead of only fixating on that, we might acknowledge that, but also we kind of expand and wish ourselves well. May I be safe. May I be happy. It's like gift giving or blessing.
Yeah.
And so it's not like being conflict avoidant or trying to deny the problems, but we can get so like narrowed, so obsessed. And here we are. It's like, take a breath, breathe free. May I be safe. May I be happy. And then we see what happens. Or for all those many beings, we look right through what happens when we, in effect, look at them, call them to mind in meditation, and may you be safe. May you be happy. So what happens over time is that the kind of incredibly rigid sense of self and other and us and them, it just starts to dissolve.
Yeah.
And here we are, and joined in a way. It doesn't mean you like everybody or you're going to invite them home or try to please them in some way. But there's that bone deep knowing that our lives do have something to do with one another.